Hello everyone, and welcome to our spotlight series of women doing it afraid. As you know, we love to put the spotlight on women who we know are doing it afraid, either be in their business, their career, or their personal life. And I have an amazing woman right here. I'm going to let her introduce herself while we get to ask her questions and dig into her life and her life journey. So okay. So over to you, Lola.
Hello everyone, my full name is actually Lola Fadipe. I go by Lola, and I go by Lola because it's easier to pronounce. I don't exactly enjoy having people butcher my name and then apologize after, like, oh, how do you pronounce it? So, let's just keep it simple, and Lola is good, or Lola as they call me at work, right? Who am I? I am, first of all, a child of God. Married to a wonderful husband. His name is Sukomi Fadipe. I have two wonderful children, Sophia and Demilade. I'm also a project manager. I'm a real estate agent, and I recently started a new venture with Salad Master. So needless to say, I'm a very busy person.
Yeah.
But in a nutshell, that's
who you are. Yep. Definitely very busy. I'm going to get into asking you questions on how do you balance all of that. But before we dig into it, so women do it afraid. Like it's a community of women who are tired of their fears holding them down, and they're ready to do life afraid. So, would you describe yourself as a woman doing it afraid?
Absolutely, and I am still in the process of doing it afraid. Definitely, I would say I'm not where I started from. So when you do it afraid, it definitely it gets better over time. You don't remain in at the same level of fear, and then also your fears change.
Right.
So obviously, the bigger your dreams, possibly the bigger your fears. But that's not to say that you don't do it, because at the end of the day, what is fear, right? Fear is just a false, experience or false expectation appearing real.
Right.
So what that means is that it's not actually real. It's just a feeling, right? And so it's important not to let those feelings hold you back, right? And so that's what I'm doing now. And am I still afraid sometimes? Do I still sometimes, like, have I lived out my full dream? No. I'm still in the process. My story is still being written. I am still in transition. But I do know that I am doing things currently. Even though I'm scared of the outcome, I'm still doing them. And I know that moving forward, there's still a lot of things I still need to do and get over some of the fears that I have right now.
Wow. There's something you said about, you can't remain in the same level of your fear, and basically for different levels, there are different kinds of fear. So can you tell us a fear that you have overcome and a fear that is right now in this level?
Okay, one of the fears that I had was just being comfortable around people and being myself. Not because I felt like I was less than, but because I was really concerned about how people perceived me and such. I used to be in the consulting world, and so in the consulting world, you pretty much have to suck up to people to, make it up there, unless your work just completely speaks out. So even with that, you still need that, you need to be out there, so to speak, and so that's something that I had to basically go out of my comfort zone to, number one, introduce myself to people, to start up conversations with people, to get to know people. And obviously I wanted to make sure that when I was doing that, I was being genuine about it. It wasn't just fake, and that's what I think that was my fear, that was my challenge, is trying to be, I didn't want to be fake. And so I had to make sure that when, I'm trying to get to know people, and it's intentional and it's real. And so I was able to overcome that just by trying. I just would try to just say hi. Sometimes you end up having like a 2-second conversation, but it was better than nothing.
True. And
then that grew into 5 minutes conversation, and grew into actually getting to know people, and it not just being, I just want to know you so that because of what you can offer. Exactly.
This level that you are in right now in your life, what fear are you trying to overcome?
That's a loaded question. I think the fear of my dreams. I have huge dreams that are beyond me, and what I struggle with is trying not to be overwhelmed with trying to figure it all out. Sometimes I find that because my dream is so big, I don't even know where to start. And so it takes me back to my relationship with God. And just that trust in knowing that He has the full picture. He knows the full picture. I don't have to know all of it. I just need to take the steps, the baby steps. And so I am in process of taking those baby steps. But I still have days where I'm just like, this is too much. Or how do I know that I'm actually going to get to that dream that I have?
Right, and I know if I ask you what the baby steps are now, it probably is just applicable to your own dream, because that is your dream, not someone else's kind of dream.
Yes.
But just on a general level, like general playing field, for someone as well who has that massive dream that they are overwhelmed with, what are these practical steps that you take, you know, to just overcome that, just day by day, you know, just keep moving forward? What do you do?
Number one, I think it's important to write it down. Write down what those dreams are, whatever it is that is so big. Writing it down, believe it or not, takes pressure off of you. Not only that, it also gives you the ability to start breaking down whatever it is, right? It's harder for you to, it's easier for you to break a stick off of a broom than to break an entire broom, right? So if you're able to take out the sticks and break it down into smaller pieces, you find that they are able to break off the entire broom. So definitely, I will start by writing it down, and then also just figuring out, you know, what can I start now? You know, breaking it down into pieces as far as what's the short term, what's the long term, what can I do now today that there is nothing holding me back. Yes, I don't have the money to do it. There are many excuses you can make, and some of them for the most part will be valid. But you know, what can I do today
to take me closer
to my dream? And that's what I'm doing in the process of doing. It's just doing a little bit that I can, and then figuring out along the way. And you know, I was talking to you earlier. I was telling you that, you know, it's important to leverage the relationships you have. You never know who it is that you get to meet that would then take those things that are on paper and bring them into reality. You know, God gives us dreams, and He doesn't expect us to accomplish them by ourselves,
right?
But I think we tend to think, how am I going to do this all by myself? And the idea is not for I to do it; it's meant for a group of people.
That's a very good point, because at the end of the day, you know, our life is just for me, myself, and I's. Where destinies are literally connected to so many other people. You know, if you think that way, then realize that we are not just called to do everything by ourselves. There are people out there that's supposed to be connected to us. Even going back to the Bible, Jesus had 12 disciples. There's a reason why He had 12 disciples, you know, from different walks of life. So being able to leverage that community, being able to step out of the comfort zone, definitely are steps that...
Absolutely.
Great. So for your journey, you know, can you just give us a bit background about your journey? You know, from where you're coming from to where you are right now. You know, how's the journey been?
It's been good. Not always good. It's definitely been filled with challenges here and there. But there have also been really great moments. Grew up in Nigeria. Had my primary school and secondary school in Nigeria, and came to the United States after I finished high school. While I was in Nigeria, you know, when you're transitioning between junior secondary school and senior secondary school, obviously you have to make a choice. You know, between, do you go for the sciences or do you go for the arts? I like money. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to do accounting because in my mind, accountants dealt with money, and that to me translated to the
level of money.
Lots of money. So I said accounting is what I want to do. But my parents, you know, my dad is late now, unfortunately, but they were both doctors, and so they both wanted me to go into medicine. And so this one way or the other got me to go into the sciences in high school. And so I did that, and you know, I did fairly well. And then I came here, and the idea of college was, you know, to get my bachelor's in, get a science degree as my pre-med, so that I could then go into medical school. And so I started that journey, but then realized that I was treading on somebody else's dreams.
Wow.
It was my dad's dream, it was my mom's dream, but it wasn't my dream. And I realized that if I continue that path, I would have had to bear the brunt of the results of it, and I knew I wasn't happy. And so I had to have that conversation with them. It wasn't it wasn't a fun conversation. My dad was upset with me for quite a while, but it was a conversation that we needed to have.
Right.
And when I look back now, I don't know if I made the best choice, but I'm happy that I stood up for myself, if nothing else came out of it. And the reason I say that is I finished my bachelor's in accounting, but I have not one day worked as an accountant with no regrets. No regrets. Only because once I finished college, I then realized, and I was trying to get a job in accounting, I then realized that you don't really make a lot of money as an accountant unless you have a CPA. And at the time I hadn't had my CPA, I was just looking for the first entry-level position, and I just was not ready to earn peanuts. So I found something else, or let me not say it that way. I applied for something else, and they were kind enough to hire me. And I feel like that has, you know, transitioned me into where I am today, because I started working with a consulting firm. No idea about what consulting entailed at the time. I had an accounting degree, and I wasn't going to be doing anything accounting related. In fact, I was doing more IT related consulting than anything else. I was working with Accenture at the time, and I was definitely very honored that they took me in, basically. And I was able to figure things out. That's where I sort of learned how to come out of my comfort zone, and not to, well, that coupled with church, you know, not to be so shy and to be so reserved, so to speak. And from there, you know, I realized that IT wasn't really bad, you know, the money was good. So that really had a part to play in it. But beyond that, I feel like it allowed me to try a few different things and figure out what I liked. I started working for a different company and started working as a quality assurance analyst, and from there transitioned into project and product management. And I feel like that's where I kind of found my niche. As far as a career goes, I enjoy managing projects. And so I moved from trying to figure out where I wanted to be to actually finding something that I enjoy doing. Coupled with that, I don't believe in one stream of income. So I started taking, at some point in between, I started taking real estate classes. I got my license, and then I started helping people find homes, you know, sell their homes. And then also, you know, I started the venture with Salad Master, where I basically come into people's homes, teach them how to add nutrition into their food, you know, by investing in the cooking system. And also I partner with my husband. He has a drinks company called Noble Drinks, and I help make the specialty drinks with that. But needless to say, you know, I definitely keep myself busy. And where my dreams are nowhere, you know, close to where I am right now. But like I said, they're so huge that I just have to take baby steps. And I'm hoping that, you know, if we had to do this again in 5 years, and by the way, I'm really honored that you allowed me to do this as someone in transition. But yeah, I'm hoping that I'll be able to have more of a story about where I really see myself. You know, I'm right now just in transition of getting there.
I'm glad you say you're hoping in 5 years you have more of a story, because, you know, people always think that we celebrate people who are, you know, all over the place and are doing great things, and obviously, you know, yes, we have every reason and right to, because they put in the work. But I just truly believe that every woman is a walking story, literally, you know, from being born on this, you know, into this world to where we are right now. We've gone through different phases of our life, and there's so many things that other people can learn from us. You know, we can also learn from other people, and that's why the Spotlight series is to just showcase women who, you know, who've got stories to tell, who are inspiring, you know, who are doing it free, you know, personal life, career, physical, whatever, home, you know, just every aspect of their life. And I'm going to ask you a question. You talk about big dreams and big dreams and big dreams. I'm just curious to know what one of those big dreams, so that we can say that we heard it here first.
Sure. One of them, I'm not shooting myself in the foot.
No!
One of them is to own my own fashion company, where we're designing the clothes, we're making them, and then we're also selling them to wonderful women who will wear them. And I feel like I could obviously pick one of those and just start with them. As far as like probably the selling part, I can just find places that already sell and, you know, just resell or whatever the case is. But that's not really my dream. My dream is to actually design clothes that actually have an African inspiration. So that's, I think that's the unique feature that I bring to the table. Not that there aren't already, you know, designers that have any African influence in their clothing, but that's been my dream, and so I'm just praying one day, one way or the other, it would come into fruition. So I'm speaking it actually out into the universe. I'm actually glad that you asked me, but yes, that's one of my many dreams.
And you know, I know there are people have dreams and ideas, and they go out there, like you said, that a lot of other people have African inspired clothing, you know. How do you feel? Like, what goes through your mind when you go online and your logo certainly brings you like so many people? There's that easy slip into, okay, I'm done. Like, they already exist, so why even bother even starting this?
So yes, I have had that thought of I'm done. But I know that the thought did not come just from the inside, meaning just from me as a person. I feel like God put those thoughts in me. And the feeling that I have or have had when I see people basically doing what I see as being my own dream or something that God gave me is number one, that I slacked, right? That I wasn't bold enough, or I didn't have enough faith to step out there and just do it.
Just do it.
Number two, I usually remind myself that it's important to celebrate those people. So when the thoughts come to just delete them off my Instagram, I'm like, no, like this picture and encourage them, right? Because you never know when yours is gonna happen, right? And I also tell myself that it's not the end. The fact that somebody else is doing it does not mean that there isn't space for another person to do it. I just have to make sure that I separate myself out in the market when I do come out, right? I'm not the same. I'm not doing the exact same thing that they're doing. Yes, it's similar, but we're not, you know, doing the exact same thing. Whether it's my target market that's different, or a unique feature that I'm bringing to the table, or whatever it is, you know, the fact that they're already doing it now does not mean that doesn't end the story for me. And I just celebrate them right now. That's all I can do.
So you celebrate them, even if there's someone else, you know, way ahead what you want to even, we're even thinking of doing, you know. In as much as it's easy to get overwhelmed, like, okay, these people already have a working process, strategy in place, and you're like, I've never even started, I don't even know who the tailor is, I don't even know how to work a sewing machine, but yet I want to have, you know, a fashion label. Just like you know, Lola says about celebrating them, encouraging yourself, and I think also there's a thin line between content and encouragement, because it's easy to look at those people stuff on Instagram and be like, you know, I just feel so, you know, all negative inside.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So it's not that those feelings don't happen, but I think it's what you do about the feelings. I'm not a perfect person, so I'm not going to tell you that every time I see them, like, yay, I want to like the picture. Excuse me, I do have ill feelings sometimes, but I have to remind myself, and I have to consciously make an effort to like and do it sincerely, right? So it's like reminding myself that you can't hold on to those negative feelings. You have to make something out of it. You have to do something positive out of it, because what do you gain really? It's not going to stop them from moving forward. Exactly. So
you know, oh my God, I feel like we need a social media video separate, like, you know, social media true feeling, because you're saying something now is about liking genuinely, because there's so many times we like stuff, or like just because, you know, if I don't like that, I didn't like, and
if I like, if I don't like, I just skip through. There's actually some things that I see that I like, but I actually don't push the button because of several reasons. It could be like, if I see a funny video, I find it funny and I like it, but I'm not actually going to like it because I don't know where I'm going in the future and how that's going to tie into how people perceive me, or because it's funny, it's entertaining, but sometimes not always appropriate. And so by me liking it, I almost feel like I'm endorsing it, and I don't want to endorse something that I wouldn't be proud of later, 5 years down the line, or even have my kids, you know, be proud of that I liked or didn't like. I mean, I'm a human being, so I find things entertaining, but it's not always, things that people pull out there are not always appropriate. But I feel like we're okay, so for this segment, I think my take home will be, you know, make sure that that whatever I'm doing right now is for, I'm thinking
long run. I'm thinking
Absolutely.
future. I'm just not thinking right now. Even our thinking process and what we think about life is whatever you're going through right now. Don't think because you're in a foreign world, so you don't feel like you can go to a palace. It's like think ahead, think future wise and all that. Yes. All right, Grace. So what does success mean to you?
That's a very, very loaded question. Success means a few things to me, and success to me is actually a journey. It's not necessarily a destination. I know a lot of us just think success is a destination, meaning until I get to this point, I'm not successful. I don't believe that's what success is. I believe success is a journey that has different peaks, so to speak, or landmarks that you tend to celebrate, but it's something that happens over a period of time. And the reason why I say that is because we and I'm speaking to myself, we need to enjoy the process of success, right? Success is, to me, having kids and being able to bring them up in a godly way, right? Success is having a marriage that doesn't end up in divorce. And this is not by any way shading people that are divorced today, because marriage is difficult, it's not easy, right? But my point is, success is being able to go through those challenges and making it out on top. Success is being able to make things out of nothing, right? Whether it's your business that you're starting from the scratch and making it into something, but success is not the point where it becomes the biggest thing. Success is the journey
to that point.
Right? Success is to me something that makes you proud, a legacy, something that you feel like you can leave behind, and when people look back on, it's something that's appreciated. And I guess in a nutshell, that's what success is to me. So it's not just one thing; it's a variation of different, and it's a journey. I guess would be the way for me to summarize it.
That's definitely very, I think, a deep definition of success. Because when we think that success is something, so I want to get $1 million, I want to work in this company. And I guess when we get to that point and we realize, oh, I'm not even fulfilled. So what's going on? I thought this is what I wanted, but just even enjoying the process, because so easy to get so carried away with the stress and the turmoil. Like, I need this, I need this, I need this, and we're not even enjoying the process at all. But just that mental, changing our mindset that, okay, this is what I want, this is where I want to go to. I'm gonna have that clothing line. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to enjoy the process. By liking other people's Instagram pictures. By learning how to sew, by picking out colors, by having a vision board, just enjoying that process, but also making steps towards your goal. So you're not living in la la land. You're actually doing something about
absolutely. it. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't do something about it, nothing is going to happen. That's just what it is. It's going to remain a dream. Yeah. And my prayer is, and my hope is that my dreams will become actual achievements and not just remain,
True. When we started the conversation, we mentioned about being a mom, being a wife, how do you balance all that, and then you have these big dreams. I've just heard only one on this Spotlight series.
Yes, I know that.
Not even number 2. Okay.
No.
So how do you balance all this?
I keep saying, you're asking me quite loaded questions. How do I balance it? I think my first answer is God. Because sometimes when I sit back and I think about everything that I have going on, I'm like, how in the world am I able to do this? And it just takes me back to God's grace. So that would be my first response. But I know some people might think that that's very cliche or very religious, but it's my own truth. But another way I am able to balance it all is by prioritizing, right? My husband and I do this thing where we write down what our values are, and we basically, in order of importance. And the idea is that you write it down, but you also act it out, right? It's what's the most important thing to me. My husband, my God obviously first, my husband, my children, relationships, and then, my career or my businesses come after that. But are there times where I have to move something to the top and something else that's more important comes down? Yes, if the situation requires it. But for the most part, I just try to prioritize and to just do the first things first. I've realized I used to be very frustrated because I would try to do everything. I have this list of things that I want to do, and until I get to the last ones, like, you've not accomplished. And now I'm just like, you know what? Thank you, Lord, because I was able to do 8 out of the 20. Thank you, Lord, because I was able to do the most important 2. Because sometimes the first 2 might be 80% of what needs to be done. And so the fact that there are, 18 more that are left undone does not mean that I haven't accomplished much that day. And so it's just appreciating the little that I'm able to do in some situations, and then also, prioritizing. And then I've gotten into the habit now of writing down lists. So if there are things that I want to do in a particular day, I just write them down. I find that I don't end up doing everything in that day. But what I find is that I end up doing it sooner than I would have if I didn't write it down.
It was all in your mind. Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes just when you have it in your mind, it's overwhelming.
Right.
And I go back to writing down. Writing down takes off that pressure, and then, believe it or not, it's a reminder of something that you need to do. One way or the other, that will come back to your mind that you need to do it. And you end up doing it at the right time. But it's still work in progress. I'm still trying to find that perfect balance. But right now, with God, I believe
as a woman, is there a perfect balance? Even as a wife, as a mom, is there anything called perfect balance?
That's an interesting question. I don't want to say that there is, but in my mind, I tell myself that there is, so that I keep striving for something better than what I'm doing now. Because is there a better way for me to do or balance things that I'm doing now? Absolutely. Because I can sometimes see my shortcomings and stuff. But if you're focused on the word perfect, probably not. But I tell myself basically I can do better, and that's my idea of that perfect balance.
So it's more about holding yourself accountable that you can do better.
Exactly.
All right, great. And another question I have for you was: is there a turning point, or was there a turning point in your life? That kind of like flipped the switch. Good question. What switch?
Okay. I'll just answer the question the way I understand it. I'm just going to talk about a turning point in my life, and I think that turning point had to do with my relationship with God. And it was around the time I was getting married. My wedding was in Nigeria, and my husband and I were here. We were working and everything, trying to plan a wedding back home. And I've obviously since had more stressful situations, but at the time, that was the most stressful situation I'd ever had, because I was in arguments with both my parents. There were different levels of things that were going on that were it just seemed like nothing was going right. And I would pray to God, and I'm just like, I don't understand it. At one point, I didn't want to do the wedding anymore, and to some people it might be trivial, it might be, what's the big deal, but for me it wasn't about the event, the ceremony itself. It was the relationship with my parents, and I was strained at the time, and so it caused me even more stress with other aspects of my life. And the wedding came, and the wedding went, and God actually showed himself. Like, it was way more beautiful than I would ever have imagined, not from a physical perspective, but the fact that everything went so smoothly, coming from a place of so much turmoil and everything happening just seamlessly. I just couldn't correlate the two. And that to me was a landmark or a turning point with my relationship with God, with understanding that regardless of how crazy things might seem, it doesn't mean that he's not working in the background. And I'm, as I'm saying that, I'm actually reminding myself of that, because I think even of recent, there's just been so much going on in my life, and I'm just asking, how am I going to get to that dream, or these dreams that I have? And I've just reminded myself. So thank you. That even though there is turmoil and you're not able to put 2 and 2 together, it doesn't mean that God is not working in the background and able to turn things around.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure. You just
probably women out there right now who feel like they haven't achieved something, and they keep doubting themselves, talking themselves out of their visions and their dreams and aspirations. What would you tell those women?
First of all, I would say, number 1, you're a beautiful person. Number 2, you don't need to listen to the outside or the external voices telling you that you have not accomplished anything. It's not possible for you to be on this earth and not have accomplished things. At the end of the day, accomplishments are relative. right? They're relative to different factors. They're relative to your environment. They're relative to the people that you're talking to or associating yourself with. So it's not possible for you not to have accomplished anything. Now, I think that the challenge is them feeling, or you feeling like you haven't accomplished the things that you feel like you should have accomplished. And who are you basing those factors on? Are you basing them on your personal perception of yourself, or where you feel like you should have been? Are you basing them on your parents' perception of where they think you should be, or your friends or your colleagues, or maybe where your friends or colleagues are? And one thing my mother-in-law always tells me is that you should not run somebody else's race. Right? And there's that story of the race that included the tortoise and the hare, or I don't remember what animal it was. But the bottom line is, your race is yours. If you keep telling yourself that you have not accomplished anything, then truly you would not accomplish anything. One thing I've realized is our thoughts are very powerful. So even if something is not happening to you physically now, and you want it to happen, start with your thoughts. Start thinking about yourself in that place. Start visioning yourself in that place. Start writing down things that put you in that place, as opposed to telling yourself you have not achieved or accomplished anything. Because if you keep telling yourself that, then that actually becomes your reality. But if you tell yourself that you've accomplished XYZ, XYZ being those things that you actually have not accomplished, you will actually accomplish them. At least you get closer than you would have if you were telling yourself you haven't accomplished them.
Right. And there's a quote I saw that says, be careful what you tell yourself, because you are listening.
Exactly.
So your whole spirit and body is really absorbing, you know. And that's where even the community you have, the friends around you, you have to be careful. Make sure that you have friends who are building you up and not pulling you down, you know. So I'm just going to go back some weird questions.
Shoot.
So if you go back to like 5 to 10 years, like, what would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently? Number one, I probably would have done some more research, especially with school, and trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. I feel like my my desire to make money or to become an accomplished person sort of blinded my eyes to the reality of things. Because number one, if I did my research about accounting, I would have known that, you know, you have to basically have your CPA before you actually start making reasonable what I was, you know, exactly. And then that would have either made me still go ahead with it, but knowing that I need to do my CPA right after I finish school, at least I would have had that background knowledge versus being surprised. What else would I have done differently? I probably have come out of my shell much sooner. Because I just realized that it didn't really benefit me much to keep to myself all the time. What else would I have done differently? I'll probably have managed resources better, especially here, because when I came here, obviously I didn't come with my parents, so it was just my older sister that was here, and so we made some I made some financial decisions that were not very smart. In retrospect, right? At the time I had scholarships, you know, in school, and then they also offered loans, and at the time I really didn't need the loans, but I liked traveling, and so I used that as my ticket to traveling, and we're still paying for it right now. We're still paying for this trip. So obviously I would have made better choices, definitely, for sure. Especially since I didn't need the loans, so I wouldn't, but there was nobody to tell me not to. And so that would be my advice to younger people out there. If you have scholarships, or if your parents are paying for college and you don't need the loans that are being offered, it seems like free money. That's what they told me. Free money.
Nothing is free.
And nothing is free. There's no such thing as free lunch. Exactly. So I would definitely say, you know, don't go into that. Definitely be financially savvy. But I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes you have to learn to be able to hopefully teach other people and not make it again.
Not make the mistake again.
Yeah.
Okay, so the best piece of advice you've been given. So let's flip the switch.
Okay. The best piece of advice would probably be to put God first. And I keep going back to God because I've just realized that there's really not much I can do or have done without him. It's very funny because now when I look back and I'm just like, how in the world was I able to live life and, you know, just do things without realizing that there really was a God? Like, it almost feels now, it almost like I can't do anything without him. And I don't know how I was able to do it then, but I think it's just now that I have a conscious knowledge and I have probably a closer relationship with him, it's more apparent to me that all the things that I thought I was doing back then by myself, he was right there. He was right there, you know, pulling me along and just being, you know, in the shadows, quote unquote, you know. So I think, you know, putting God first, and, you know, it's something that is loaded, and it's, you know, people hear, you know, put God first, and it's just like, okay, you know, what does that mean? You know, but it means basically in everything you put him first, whether it's, you know, stepping out the door in the morning, whether it's making a financial decision, whatever it is, just putting him first and just communicating to him. I think that's something that's definitely made a difference in my life. I am not by any means where I want to be when it comes to relationship with God. But you know what, I'm better than I was before, and that's fine. And that's why I say it's a journey. I think we always put so much pressure on us. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself because I had a way I wanted to relate with God. You know, I wanted to hear him when he talks. I just want to hear and just do it. And for the longest, it didn't happen. I just couldn't understand, you know, why is it that my relationship with God is not the way I expect it to be, or whatever the case is. I just had to take a step back. You know, I'm like, you know what? He is God. If he wanted to talk to me in that particular way, he would. He would. And if it hasn't happened, then I have to just be okay with it. And take the pressure off of myself. I mean, the worst I can do, or the most I can do, is just keep asking, right, and just leave the rest to him. Right. So the most advice, the best advice I've had is you know, put God first. For sure. What about the worst? The worst, I'm still struggling. I won't say I haven't had bad advice, but the one I was going to that came straight to my mind was very superficial. So I don't know if that's appropriate to say. So it was, I think my mom, when I was having my kids, she told me to put olive oil on my stomach because I was concerned about stretch marks and all of that. And I was so judicious about this olive oil. But it did nothing. The stretch marks still came and they're still here. I remember telling my mom, I'm like, Mommy, because of you, I didn't use everything else I would have used. I didn't use the shea butter because it said, you know, but I mean, that's superficial. I would say it's the worst, but it's just funny though. Alrighty, thank you so much for this interview. Pleasure. You know, before we round it up, so what would be your definition of the woman doing it afraid? The woman doing it afraid is the woman that's still on her journey, right? It's the woman that hasn't necessarily arrived at where she wants to be, but is taking steps to get there. The woman doing it afraid is the woman that is scared and yet is still making those steps with the fear and not allowing anything to be a hindrance to her goals, to her vision, or to wherever it is that she wants to be, or where she wants to go. And when you wake up every morning for yourself, what are the things you do to set up yourself for success? Knowing that every day has its own challenges, has its own fears, you know, you want to achieve this dream, you have so many things going on, what do you do to set up yourself for success? Again, it goes back to putting God first. That's the first that I try to do. I'm not quite there yet. But that, and then I also have daily affirmations that I've written down and that I speak to myself every day to remind me of who I am, number one, and then to also remind me of where I'm going. It goes back to what you're telling yourself, right? Your words are more powerful than your thoughts. But before you get to speak something, you think about it, right? And so even though you might have thoughts that are not necessarily positive or where direction you want to go, it's important to have affirmations that you tell yourself, because it's a higher level than your thoughts. It debunks. Yeah. After a while, those thoughts go away, and you actually believe those things. And once you believe those things that you're saying, you're able to accomplish them and act them out in the physical. All right, great. Thank you so much again for coming to our Spotlight series. You know, I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope you have. There's so many
key points, deep words, you know, things that we can literally take from what Lola has said. Lola has said, and we can start using, you know, in our lives, from the words of affirmation to having a list, you know. So if you have so many things going on, certain priorities, and knowing that the woman doing afraid is on a journey. She hasn't gotten there. Just like success. Success is a journey. It has the ups, it has the downs. You just have to enjoy the whole process, and to know that you're not alone in your journey. There's so many other women out there who are striving to do it afraid every single day. Hi there, thank you so much for watching the whole video, and I know that you've learned one or two things. Please feel free to follow us on our website www.womendoitafraid.com, the same for our Instagram page at Women Doing It Afraid, and also for our Facebook page Women Do It Afraid. I'm looking forward to connecting with you, to knowing you, and seeing how we can break through every fear, every limiting factor, and just keep going, keep doing life. Thank you.